And good afternoon from just outside Dublin's Heuston station. Or is it Heuston? And there's one of the Lewis trams going by, because Heuston is a wonderful intermodal point where there is buses to all points in Ireland. Just over there, there's obviously the railway station itself, the Lewis for the trams, and also lots of local buses stop here, including connecting bus from the airport that I caught earlier today. So today I'm now going to be getting on the express train that goes from here to Cork. It's the one Irish train that looks a bit different to all the others, and it has first class, so I thought, I'm worth it, you're worth it. So yeah, we're going to go first class from Dublin Heuston to Cork, and we're going to see how it goes. The Heuston Bridge was opened in 1828 as King's Bridge. The date 1821 appears on the bridge as it commemorates the visit of King George IV in 1821. It's probably Ireland's oldest cast iron bridge, although its job now is primarily to enable the Lewis to cross the river. The station buildings were designed by architect Sancton Wood, with the attached train shed being the work of John McNeill. The views of the station from either the east or the south show it to be a beautiful example of 19th century Italianate design. Right, it's time to cross the road and taste the delights of the interior. Entering from the east affords a lovely view of McNeill's simple and yet effective train shed. Here, the station is decked out as a mini mall with a selection of shops, eateries and some ticket machines. And having ticket machines is very handy, as Irish Rail does not have ticketless operation. So, even if you buy tickets via their app, you must convert that into a physical ticket before you travel, using one of their machines. By the way, here's our train, but boarding will not commence for some time yet. Heuston is a well-proportioned station, and it's always a pleasure to spend a little bit of time here. Platforms 6, 7 and 8 were added at the start of the 21st century and are beyond the main train shed. So, whilst I watch the Galway train chunter by, let's have a look at our route for today. We will head west from Dublin, running non-stop through Kildare until we swing southwest at Portarlington, through Portlaoise and on to our first stop at Thurles. At Limerick Junction, we will cross the Limerick to Waterford line and then press on with additional stops at Charleville and Mallow before we make our final approach to Court Kent Station through the 1.2 kilometre long Cork Railway Tunnel. The journey today is 266 kilometres or 165 miles long, and with the 4 intermediate stops, it is scheduled to take us 2 hours and 35 minutes. So, if everything goes to plan, that will give us an average speed for the journey of 103 kilometres per hour or 65 miles per hour. Right, I have my paper ticket, and so we can now access the platforms. At the rear of our train today will be the driving van trailer 4001. This DVT and the associated Mark IV coaches were built by CAF between 2004 and 2005 and entered service in 2006. The coaching stock is capable of running at 200 kilometres per hour or 125 miles per hour. But the ruling line speeds and our ageing Class 201 locomotive will make sure things run no faster than 160 kilometres per hour. And here we are in the standard class with 2+2 seating, and yes, do not adjust your sets, everything looks blue. You know, for a train built in the 21st century, it is very odd that the windows are tinted, somewhat like aftermarket windows on an old Triumph Dolomite from the 1970s. Anyway, here's my seat in first class, so let's get settled in. As we depart Heuston, I'll let you enjoy the weird blue world from behind the glass. But don't worry, I'll do some colour correction in a minute so you don't have to suffer it for the whole video. Although I did suffer it for the whole journey. Also, as we leave, we catch a little look at platform 10, which is the only through platform at the station, which is on the spur line that goes through to Connolly. Well, that's better, although everything now looks maybe a little orangey. Okay, now we're underway. Let's have a look at this first class offering. Well, legroom is pretty decent and our seats are aligned nicely with the windows. In common with a lot of these CAF coaches, there's some really big trunking getting in the way of your feet. Down below there's power supplies and they worked fine throughout the journey. There's also a reading light switch in the left armrest, and also on the right side the recline switch, which makes the whole seat pivot backwards. I've never had a seat that did that before. And we're now well into County Kildare. At Portarlington, the single-track line for Athlone and other points west peels off, and we swing down to the southwest, continuing on the main line. And also we continue to make decent progress. County Laois certainly looks mighty fine in this afternoon's sun. Ballybroughy is a junction station for the slow line to Limerick, which goes via Neenah. And here we are at our first stop at Turles. And there's an awful lot of green and blue as Limerick have just been playing Waterford at the 45,000 capacity Semple Stadium. Our train is now very busy indeed, but thankfully only in second class. It's not far to our next stop at Limerick Junction. We see the curve to Limerick, then cross the Limerick to Waterford line before we pull into the station. And quite a lot of our sports fans will be changing here for the waiting connection to Limerick. And it's by now that this seat is really starting to, as they say, do my back in. It really isn't quite as nice as it looks. But unlike other lines in Ireland, this one remains fast even when you're distant from Dublin. Dublin to Cork trains run every hour, varying between 3, 4 and 5 intermediate stops. As we have 4, we'll be pausing at Charleville. Charleville pretty much marks the point where we make our final turn south to head for Cork, and we've also entered County Cork itself. And back here in Blue World, the train is now a lot quieter.
We will shortly be arriving at Mallow. Passengers travelling to Ballantyre, Mill Street, Rathmore, Killarney, Farranfore and Tralee, please change here for your connecting train.
Mallow is our final intermediate stop and is yet another junction where there is an awaiting connection on a class 22,000 DMU for Killarney and Tralee. And once we cross the River Blackwater, the line to Tralee heads off west. The County Cork countryside really looks quintessentially Irish as we speed our way to our final destination. So it's probably time to talk about what this journey cost me today. My first class adult single, bought a couple of weeks in advance, cost me €45.49. Meanwhile, a standard class ticket could have cost €30.99. There are no additional benefits in first class apart from having slightly larger seats, so I'd certainly be tempted if I travel again to give standard class a go. And then we are plunged into darkness as we traverse the 1.2 kilometre Cork tunnel, before we finally arrive at Cork Kent Station. And at last we can emerge from Blue World, blinking in the light of a full chromatic spectrum. What a relief. Well, let's hope there was nothing breakable in those bags. Let's take a moment to walk up to the eastern end of the station to bid goodbye to our Class 201. I'll be spending another day in Cork, so we'll take a closer look at the station itself in a future video. Now, all I have to do is negotiate the ticket barriers and then find my way to my fairly central Airbnb and maybe get out and investigate the city of Cork on this rather pleasant April evening. Well, here we are at Cork Kent Station, and the verdict on it really was okay. Wasn't a glorious first class experience. I mean, I was aware that there wasn't going to be any catering, as they haven't got any back on yet since COVID, as far as I can tell. And it was very nice that there was a big match on, and an awful lot of people got on the train at one point, so it was jolly handy that I was sat in first class, so it wasn't that busy. But the first class train was very, very tired, and there was very little comfort or support from what should be a first class seat. So yeah, all in all, I was quite disappointed, really. I thought it would be the flagship train of Irish Rail, and actually I thought it was a bit past its best, really. I'd like to have been overwhelmed, and as a result I was more underwhelmed. Right, well, it's time for me to head out into Cork to my Airbnb and then probably get a beer. I hope you enjoyed this video of a little run from Dublin to Cork, and if you're about to do it yourself or planning on doing it, then I hope it's given you the information you need. If you have enjoyed the video, then do give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel, as I release a video every Friday and sometimes on a Monday as well. But in the meantime, I'll bid you a goodbye from Cork Kent Station. Thank you very much for watching.